Hello and welcome to the 8th video in the DB wrapper series. We're getting really close to wrapping up our DB wrapper. That's just funny. This video and the next video will be a lot shorter, but they're both going to use a lot of the same functionality. We're going to write a find and a find first method, and I don't want to reuse code, so I am going to go ahead and create a private function in this video before we get going. So ultimately, what we want to happen is have two different read functions here. We're going to call those public function find and a public function find first. Okay? Oops, spell that correctly. All right. So that's essentially what we want to be able to use, but I don't want to. Most of the code for these two are going to be the same except for the return. So what we're going to do is actually write another method, and we'll just make it private. And both of these public methods are going to use this one. So we're just going to call it a private function underscore read. All right. And this read method is going to get two parameters. It's going to get a table, and then we're going to pass params. Now that's going to be equal to an empty array. Now hang with me on this because this is going to get a little bit complex, but at the end this will be extremely versatile, and you can write pretty cool statements with just a find and a find first method. So let's get going. Let's just do some pseudocode here. The first thing I want to do with this is make sure we have some conditions that are passed. We want to bind anything that's user inputted. We want to be able to order our results, and we want to be able to limit those results. So I think that's good to go. Let's see. So let's go ahead and set up a few, let's just go ahead and set up a condition string, set that equal to an empty string here, and we'll do bind, and bind we're going to do an array because remember when we query we pass an array. We'll do order, that'll be equal to an empty string, and we'll do limit. Will also be equal to an empty string. So let's work on, ultimately down here, let's look at what our SQL is going to look like for this. The SQL needs to look something like, select star from contacts where ID is equal to 3, well that's stupid, where L name is equal to Carham, okay, and then we'll say order by F name, limit 5, alright, something like that. So that's kind of what we want this to look like. So let's build this up. So let's start with our conditions. So if we need to know if conditions is going to be passed into this params here. Actually, it'd be probably helpful if we kind of show the syntax that I want this to kind of follow. I want it to look something like this. Contacts is equal to a db find, and I want to pass in the table, and then after that it's going to be all parameters. So let's just params, something like that, and then we'll set params equal to an array, and I want this array to be something like this. Okay, so conditions is equal to L name we'll bind that. So then our next element is going to be, well, let's make this a little more complex. And for L name is equal to, and screw it, we'll do first name equal to another bound parameter. So then I want to be able to pass bind, and what we're going to do is say param. There it is. So that's bind, and then I want to order, and I want to be able to order by first name descending L name, something like that, you know. And then I'm going to also pass in limit if I want. So limit 5. So let's actually use correct array syntax here. So conditions, bind, order, limit. Now we can do this all in one line here. So find contacts and then just build out our array. Or we can do it like this if it's super complex. I just kind of wanted to separate it out so we can see what we're building first and then actually build it. So we're starting with conditions. So we need to check if params has the conditions, because we want to be able to just select star if we want, right? We don't absolutely need conditions. So if is set params conditions. All right, then we need to know. I think also I want to be able to do, like, instead of passing this, I also want to be able to pass in an array. So I want to be able to do something like this: L name or even, you know, fill it out if you want, if it's not user input. F name. So I want to be able to do that as well as just writing the, so we need to know if it's an array. So we'll say if is array params, gosh, stupid, conditions. If it's an array, we're going to do a loop. If it's not, we'll do an else statement here. So we'll do the else first. That's easiest. So we can say condition string is going to be equal to params conditions. Okay. But if we pass it an array, we have to do a for each. So for each params conditions as condition, and then we'll say condition string concatenate equals, we'll need a space, and we'll concatenate on condition, and then we'll need a space and, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then we'll have to trim that, so we could say condition string is equal to trim condition, and then we could say condition string is equal to right trim. What am I going to right trim off of that? And the space and, okay. Okay. So also, like I said, we want these conditions. We want, if nothing's passed there, that's totally fine. But we need them to be able to pass an empty string as well. So we can say, do an if statement here. So if after all that condition string is not equal to a blank string, then condition string is equal to space where space and then concatenate on condition string. Okay. Otherwise, condition string is going to just be an empty string. So we have conditions set up. So let's replace our conditions down here. And I'm actually going to get rid of all those spaces as well. So this is going to be condition string, because we have the spaces built into it. And we also can do from table. Okay. So we have table, we have our table and we have our condition string. So next up, let's take care of binding. It's going to be super easy. So binding, we can just say if is set params bind say bind is equal to params bind. Otherwise, it's already set to an empty string, so that's all good to go. So that's it on binding. Order, let's get to that. So if you know what, I don't want to do, let's try something a little different here. Instead of is set, I want to say if array key exists. And what am I checking to exist? Bind. And that's the needle, and the haystack is going to be params. So that's cool. We can do the same thing for order. So if array key exists, we're checking for order this time, and the haystack is still params. So if that's true, then we're going to say order is equal to, we need a space order by space, and then we'll concatenate on params order. Okay? If not, we've already set order equal to an empty string up here, so let's replace this order by with order. Okay? We're getting that SQL built right on up there. Alright, so the next one, we're going to say if array key exists. This time we're looking for a limit. And we're looking in params again. And we'll say a limit equals space limit, and then we're going to concatenate on, well, we'll do another space, and we'll concatenate on params limit. And then we just replace this right here with limit. Alright, so now that our SQL is built up, we can actually just run the query. So let's run that, and we'll wrap that in an if statement. So we'll say if this query, we'll pass in our SQL, and our second parameter was bind, so we'll pass that in. So if that is fine, probably want to check I remember the purpose of this actual is we're going to set up our parameters inside this object, so we don't really need to return this or anything like that. We just need to know if it's successful. So what I want to do is we're going to say if size of, so if size of this results is equal to 0, then I'm going to return false. Okay. Or I'm going to return true if it's more than 0. And also if this fails, I want to return false here. So this is just going to return a Boolean. If it's going to run the query, it's actually going to set everything up, run the query. If the query is successful, but there's no results, it's going to return false. If the query is successful and there's results, it's going to return true. And if the query is not successful, it's going to return false. So now we can actually build this find method up pretty quickly because, you know, essentially we're just going to pass, we're just returning some, it's going to be a getter basically at this point. So we're going to need to pass it the same parameters, so table and params, right? And then we're going to say if this read, we're passing it down table params. So if that, then we're going to return this results. Okay. Else we're going to return false. Okay. So let's actually see if this works. We just did a lot of coding without testing, but let's go here and we'll do our dump and die function, and we'll pass it in contacts. Refresh the page. Boolean false. What happened? Conditions. L name. Parham. First name Curtis. Oh. Look at our read function here. So let's var dump our SQL, kill that, see what that looks like. Select star from contacts where blank and blank. Oh. Okay. So our condition string is let's see, conditions for each. Oh. I didn't want to do it like this. Yeah, L name equals and first name equals. Yep. That'll work now. So let's get rid of that var dump on that. Refresh. Okay, so now we're getting that contact back. We could test it a little bit more, get rid of this array, and do our original design where we say L name equals, just say last name, Farham. 2 elements are 2 objects, and an array of 2 objects are returned. So we have our context set up correctly there. So it appears to be working. Let's limit this to 1 though. Just see if we just get 1 back. So make sure our limit. Yep, our limit's working. Let's change that back to 5, and let's order by first name, not descending. So Curtis and then Tony. All right. Well, it looks like our find method is working. Take a look at that. I know it's a little bit complex, but basically we're just building up a params array here. We're passing it conditions, bind, order, limit. You don't have to pass it anything. In fact, let's test that out. Make sure we don't have to pass anything. We can just pass an empty array there. Actually, you know what? If we just say find contacts, we should get, nope. Let's just pass an empty array. There we go. We get our contacts back. So no conditions, no limiting, no ordering. We could do it. We could limit, order, whatever we want to do there. But that's essentially what we're going to have to do there. Let's see if we can get rid of that. If I just want to pass it, let's make this equal to it. Give that a default of an empty array. Now we don't have to pass it an empty array. We can just say find all contacts, and boom, it works. All right. Well, I hope you've liked this. If you have so far, please comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next and final video. Have a wonderful day.